My phone buzzed against the marble countertop at 9:47 in the morning. It was a notification from the family circle group chat. I picked it up, expecting the usual updates about my sister Brianna's upcoming wedding or my mother's latest social club drama. Instead, I saw a message from my father. Michael, Giada, we need the loft. Brianna and her fiancé need a place to start their life. And your apartment is the only one suitable. You have until Sunday to find somewhere else. Before I could even process the words, another notification popped up. It was from Brianna. She had posted a link to a Pinterest board titled Downtown Loft Transformation. I clicked on it, my stomach tightening. There were photos of my living room, my actual living room with digital overlays of new paint colors, different furniture, and a complete demolition of the kitchen island I loved. She was already measuring curtains for a home I was still living in. The timestamp on her mood board showed she had created it 3 days ago. They had been planning this behind my back for days. Discussing my eviction as if I were a squatter, they finally decided to remove. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't reply to the group chat. I didn't call my father to argue. And I certainly didn't cry. Instead, I opened my laptop and logged into a secure portal. The screen flashed blue, then loaded the dashboard for Nelson Holdings LLC. For years, I had been the invisible daughter, the one who didn't get the champagne toasts at Christmas, the one whose career in commercial acquisitions was dismissed as boring paperwork, while Brianna's failed attempts at becoming a lifestyle influencer were celebrated as brave artistic endeavors. They saw me as the quiet, reliable furniture in the background of their vibrant lives. They assumed my silence was weakness. They were wrong. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. It's where you build the things you don't want anyone to destroy. I scrolled through the assets list. 7 commercial properties across Chicago, worth a combined $25 million. And right at the top of the list was the Sterling Manor, the historic 12-unit luxury loft building where I currently resided. I clicked on the property details. Purchase date, 3 years ago. Purchase price, $5.6 million. Owner, Nelson Holdings LLC. Manager, Giada Nelson. My family thought I was a tenant. They thought I was renting this place from a vague investment group my father knew from his golf club days. They assumed I was just lucky to get a family rate or that I was house-sitting. They never asked. Not once in 3 years did they ask how I afforded the rent, or who the landlord was, or how my career was actually going. They were so busy projecting their own narrative of my mediocrity onto me that they missed the reality entirely. I looked at the screen, at the deed with my signature on it. This wasn't just a building, it was my fortress. I had built this portfolio brick by brick, deal by deal. While they were busy planning parties and buying designer clothes they couldn't afford, I realized then that my invisibility had been my greatest asset. It allowed me to move through the world undetected, accumulating power while they were distracted by their own reflections. They thought they could evict me? They thought they could just hand my home over to Brianna like a party favor? The arrogance was breathtaking. But it was also a gift. Because when your enemy underestimates you this severely, they don't just leave the door open, they hand you the keys to their own destruction. I navigated to the financial controls section of the dashboard. Under vendor accounts, I saw several active lines of credit. Jennifer Nelson, Interior Design Consulting. Michael Nelson, Advisory Retainer. These were the business expenses I had been quietly covering for years through my company, channeling funds to help them maintain their lifestyle without them ever knowing it came from me. I had set it up to look like corporate perks from the investment group. I hovered my mouse over the terminate button. I didn't click it yet. That would be too fast. I wanted them to feel the squeeze. I wanted them to understand exactly what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you, especially when you didn't even realize you were being fed. Instead, I went to the Access Control tab. I saw the logs for the keycards. Michael, Jennifer, Brianna, all listed as guest access. I selected all 3. Status, active. I changed it to deactivated. I closed my laptop. Let them come on Sunday. Let them bring their moving trucks and their paint swatches. They were about to find out that the furniture in this house bites back. My phone rang, and the screen flashed my mother's name. Jennifer. I stared at it for a moment, debating whether to answer. I knew what was coming. The accusations. The guilt trips. The demands disguised as requests. I slid the bar to accept. Giada, I need you to listen to me very carefully, she said, without even a hello. You are being incredibly selfish. Brianna needs that loft. She's getting married. She needs stability. And you have had it long enough. It's time to share family resources. Family resources? I repeated, keeping my voice level. Mom, what exactly do you mean by family resources? You know exactly what I mean. That apartment. The one your father's investment group lets you stay in. We all know you got lucky with that arrangement. But now it's time for you to step aside. You're single. You don't need all that space. Get a roommate. Learn to budget better. It's time you stopped being so comfortable and started pushing yourself. I almost laughed. Learn to budget better. This coming from a woman who had just charged a $4,000 consultation fee to my LLC for advisory services she never rendered. A woman whose entire lifestyle was subsidized by the very daughter she was currently lecturing on fiscal responsibility. They had normalized this cruelty so thoroughly that they didn't even see it as cruelty anymore. To them, my purpose was to be a resource for Brianna. I was the spare part they could cannibalize whenever the golden child needed an upgrade. Mom, I said, does Dad actually have an ownership stake in this building? Don't be pedantic. Giada. He handles the investments. He knows the people. The point is, the apartment goes to Brianna. That is final. We're doing you a favor. Really. Pushing you out of the nest. I've been out of the nest since I was 22. I reminded her. I put myself through business school. I've never asked you for $1. Oh. Stop keeping score. It's unbecoming. Just pack your things. We'll be over on Sunday to help you move. She hung up before I could respond. I set the phone down, feeling a cold clarity settle over me. They truly believed they had the power here. They believed that because they were my parents, they owned my success. My home. My life. They saw my boundaries not as lines in the sand, but as suggestions they could simply step over. I thought about the years of family dinners where I sat in silence while they praised Brianna's latest hobby. I thought about the times I had quietly paid off their credit card bills when they accidentally used the wrong card. The one linked to my company. I had let them believe they were savvy business people because it was easier than confronting them with their own incompetence. I had built a cage of comfort around them. And now they were using the bars to beat me. It wasn't just about the apartment. It was about the assumption that I existed to serve them. That my hard work was community property. But my feelings were irrelevant. They had trained me to be the giver. The fixer. The silent support system. And they had trained themselves to be the takers. I picked up my phone again and dialed William. My property manager. William, I said when he answered. This is Giada. I need you to do something for me. I have reason to believe there are unauthorized keycards circulating for the penthouse unit. I need you to wipe the access logs and deactivate every card except mine. Effective immediately. Of course. Ms. Nelson. Consider it done. Do you want me to alert security? Yes. If anyone other than me tries to access the unit or the building management office claiming to be family, they are to be treated as trespassers. No exceptions. Understood. I hung up. The trap was set. They were walking into a reality check they had been avoiding for years. And this time, I wasn't going to be there to cushion the fall. I spent the next hour meticulously reviewing the building's corporate history. If I was going to go to war with my own family, I needed to be absolutely certain there were no legal loopholes they could exploit. I pulled up the original incorporation documents for the shell company my parents had used years ago. The one Michael always referred to vaguely as the trust. I had always assumed it was just a failed venture. Another one of my father's big ideas that fizzled out. But as I dug deeper into the filing history, my blood ran cold. There, in black and white PDF scans from 7 years ago, was a document titled Nelson Family Holdings, Articles of Organization. And listed as the primary officer and liable party wasn't Michael. It wasn't Jennifer. It was me. Giada Nelson. The signature at the bottom was a crude approximation of my own. Dated from when I was 25, back when I was just starting out. Struggling to build my own credit. They hadn't just ignored me. They had used my identity. They had set up a tax shelter in my name to hide assets from creditors during my father's previous bankruptcy scare. If that company had gone under, or if the IRS had audited it, I would have been the one on the hook for thousands in unpaid taxes and potential fraud charges. I sat back, the room suddenly feeling airless. All those years I thought I was just the backup plan. The disappointment. But the truth was far more sinister. I wasn't just a disappointment. I was a shield. A disposable legal entity they could hide behind while they showered Brianna with the spoils. They viewed me as a tool. An asset to be leveraged. Not a daughter to be loved. The realization didn't make me sad. It made me furious. It solidified everything. There was no going back now. No misunderstanding to clear up. This was theft. This was exploitation. And it ended today. I picked up my phone and called William again. Change of plans, I said, my voice hard. I need you to pull the security logs for the past 3 years. I want every single instance of my parents entering the building without me present. Every time they used the gym, the lounge, the business center. Compile it all. Giada, is everything okay? William asked, sensing the shift in my tone. No. William, it's not. I also need you to contact the building's legal counsel. I need a cease and desist, drafted for Michael and Jennifer Nelson, regarding unauthorized use of corporate assets and identity theft. Have it ready for Monday. Identity theft? Giada. That's serious. I know. Just get it done. I hung up and looked at the forged signature on my screen. They thought I was invisible? Fine. They were about to see exactly what an invisible enemy could do. I printed the document and added it to a new folder on my desk labeled Evidence. It sat right next to the deed to the building. My phone buzzed with a text from Brianna. So excited for Sunday. Mom said you're being difficult. But don't worry. We can repaint the guest room if you want to stay for a few days before you find a new place. Love you. I didn't reply. I just stared at the love you and felt the final thread of obligation snap. They didn't love me. They loved what I provided. They loved the safety net I unknowingly held up. Well, the net was gone, and they were about to hit the ground. The weekend passed in a tense, suffocating silence. I didn't leave my apartment. I watched the security feeds. Saturday afternoon. I saw Michael try to enter the building. He approached the main doors with the confidence of a man who owned the place. Swiping his keycard against the reader. Red light. Denied. He swiped again. Harder. Nothing. He tried to buzz the concierge. But I had already instructed the staff to ignore him. I watched as he pulled out his phone. His face contorted in confusion, and then anger. He paced back and forth, gesturing wildly at the glass doors, probably leaving me a voicemail I would never listen to. Eventually, he stormed off, defeated by a piece of plastic. It was a small victory, but it felt immense. For the first time, his anger couldn't reach me. Sunday evening arrived. The family group chat was dead silent, which was always a bad sign. I sat in my living room. The lights dimmed. Waiting. At 6 o'clock, my phone alerted me to motion at my front door. I pulled up the feed. There they were. The whole clan. Michael, Jennifer, Brianna, and even my brother Tyler, who usually tried to stay out of family drama, but never missed a free meal. They were huddled in the hallway, looking impatient. Brianna was holding a tape measure and a binder of paint swatches. Jennifer was carrying a casserole dish. The universal peace offering of the passive-aggressive mother. They must have tailgated another resident into the building to bypass the lobby security. It was a violation of building policy. Another tick mark on the list of reasons why they didn't belong here. I watched them knock. Once. Twice. Then the pounding started. Giada, Michael's voice boomed through the door. Muffled but unmistakable. Open up. We know you're in there. Come on. Giada. Don't be like this. Brianna whined. We just want to talk. We brought dinner. I stood up, smoothed my dress, and walked to the door. I didn't open it immediately. I let them wait. I let them simmer in their entitlement for a few more seconds. Then, I unlocked the deadbolt and swung the door open. They spilled forward slightly. Caught off guard, I stood in the doorway, blocking their path. Behind me, the apartment was pristine. Exactly as I liked it. Not a box packed. Not a picture frame moved. Finally. Michael huffed. pushing past me without asking. Or trying to. I didn't move. I stood firm. My hand on the doorframe. You can't come in, I said calmly. Excuse me? Jennifer blinked, clutching her casserole. Giada. Move aside. We have a lot to do. Brianna needs to measure the windows. Brianna isn't measuring anything. And you're not coming in. This is ridiculous. Tyler muttered from the back. Just let us in. Giada. Why do you have to be so difficult? I'm not being difficult, I said. I'm being a landlord. And you are trespassing. Landlord? Michael laughed. A harsh, dismissive sound. Giada. Stop playing games. We know you're upset about moving. But this is happening. The investment group needs the unit for Brianna. It's already decided. The investment group? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Is that what you think this is? We know you don't own this place. Brianna sneered. So stop acting like you do. Just move your stuff so I can get settled. I looked at them. Really looked at them. My father, with his bluster and bad investments. My mother, with her weaponized casseroles. My sister, with her unearned confidence. They were so sure of themselves. So sure that the world, and specifically, my world, existed to serve them. They had walked into the lion's den convinced they were the lions. You're right, I said softly. I don't rent this place from an investment group. See? Michael said triumphantly. Now move. I don't rent it. I continued, my voice hardening into steel. Because I bought it. 3 years ago. For $5.6 million. Cash. The silence that followed was absolute. It was heavy and thick, sucking the air out of the hallway. Nelson Holdings LLC isn't some group you know from the club. Dad, I said, looking him dead in the eye. It's me. I am Nelson Holdings. I am the landlord. And you are standing in my building, harassing the owner. Michael's mouth opened, but no sound came out. He looked like a fish gasping for air. Jennifer dropped her casserole. It hit the floor with a dull thud, the glass lid shattering. But nobody moved. You're lying, Brianna whispered, her face pale. You can't afford this. You're Giada. Yes, I am, I agreed. And Giada owns 7 commercial properties in Chicago, with a combined valuation of $25 million. Including this one. I gestured to the hallway. The walls. The very air they were breathing. Impossible. Michael stammered, finally finding his voice. I would know. I would have seen the transactions. Why would you have seen them? I asked. You never asked. You never looked. You were too busy spending the money I funneled into your accounts through those consulting fees you never questioned. Wait, Tyler said, stepping forward. You've been paying them? For years. I confirmed. That retainer Dad gets? Me. Mom's design royalties? Me. I've been subsidizing your lives because I thought that's what family did. I thought if I made you comfortable, maybe you'd eventually see me. But I realized something this week. I looked at my mother, who was staring at the broken glass on the floor as if it were her life shattering. You don't see people you step on. You just see the ground. Giada. Please, Jennifer said, tears welling up. We didn't know. We thought we were helping you by taking the apartment back. We thought you were struggling. Stop, I said. Just stop. You didn't think I was struggling. You thought I was convenient. You thought I was a placeholder until Brianna needed something. And the worst part is, you felt entitled to it. You felt entitled to my home. My space. My life. I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. The large monitors in the lobby downstairs, visible from where we stood through the atrium glass, flickered to life. On them, clear as day, was the security footage from the past 3 days. Michael pacing angrily. Brianna trying to force the door. All of them tailgating a neighbor to get in tonight. This is what you look like, I said, pointing to the screens. Like trespassers. Like people who don't belong. Michael looked at the screen, then back at me. His face was a mask of shock and something else, fear. The fear of a man who realizes his entire world is built on a foundation he just tried to demolish. "You can't do this to us," he whispered. "We're your parents. And I'm your landlord," I replied. "And right now, you are violating the terms of your nude." "Well, you don't have a lease. You have nothing. We're family," Brianna screamed, stomping her foot. "You have millions of dollars and you won't even let me have one apartment? You're a monster." "No, Brianna. I'm a businesswoman, and you are a liability." I turned to the security guard who had quietly come up the stairs behind them. Summoned by my earlier text, "Escort them out. Please," I said, "and ensure they don't return." "Giada!" Michael shouted as the guard stepped forward. "You will regret this. You need us." "I really don't," I said, and then I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I listened to their protests fade down the hallway. Muffled by the heavy, expensive wood of my door, I walked to the window and looked out at the city. My city. My building. For the first time in my life, the silence wasn't lonely. It was victorious. It was the sound of a weight being lifted. A debt being cancelled. A ghost finally becoming real. They had built their arrogance on the assumption that I was nothing. But they forgot that nothing is where everything begins. And now, they were left with exactly what they had given me for 32 years. Absolutely nothing. 3 weeks later, William texted me. "New application for Unit 3C. 1 bedroom. Into garden view. Applicant, Brianna Nelson." I sat at my desk in my office, my actual office. Not the kitchen table where I used to hide my work, and stared at the message. They were trying. They were actually trying to come back. To find a foothold in the world I had built. But on their terms. They assumed that because I hadn't filed charges, because I hadn't publicly shamed them beyond the lobby of my own building, that the door was still open. Process it normally. I texted back. Standard criteria. 2 hours later, William sent the update. Application denied. High debt-to-income ratio. 2 late payments on her credit report from last year. And insufficient income without a cosigner. I didn't smile. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt a quiet, solid sense of rightness. The system worked. The rules applied to everyone. Even the golden child. My phone buzzed. It was Brianna. "You rejected my application? Seriously? I'm your sister. The management company rejected your application." I replied. "Based on standard tenant criteria. I don't interfere with their process." "You own the building. You could override it." "I could." I typed. "But I won't. Those criteria exist for a reason. They protect the investment. And you are a high-risk tenant. I hate you." She wrote. "Mom and Dad are furious. We have nowhere to go. We have to move into a 2-bedroom in Wicker Park. Do you know how small that is? It sounds affordable." I sent back. "You're heartless. You destroyed this family." "No." I whispered to the empty room. I just stopped holding it together. I blocked her number. Then I blocked Michael. Then Jennifer. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of my loft. The city lights of Chicago twinkled back at me. A vast ocean of opportunity and indifference. For years, I had thought my family was my anchor. I thought their approval was the thing that kept me grounded. But looking out at the skyline, I realized they weren't an anchor. They were ballast. Dead weight that had been dragging me down. Keeping me submerged while I tried desperately to breathe. Cutting them off didn't feel like a loss. It felt like surfacing. I thought about the people out there who felt like I used to feel. The ones sitting at the kids' table in their 30s. The ones paying the bills while being called a burden. The ones making themselves small so others could feel big. To them, I would say this: you are not invisible. You are just hidden. And there is a difference. Hidden things have value. Hidden things are protected. Hidden things can grow in the dark until they are strong enough to break through the concrete. Your silence is not weakness. It is strategy. Your distance is not abandonment. It is survival. And when you finally decide to show them who you really are, do not apologize for the shock on their faces. You earned every bit of that awe. I turned away from the window and looked at my apartment. My fortress. My home. It was quiet. It was peaceful. And for the first time, it was entirely mine. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to know their worth is non-negotiable. Don't forget to check the description for your free month of Audible. Start your growth journey today.